Welcome to the Hillsdale College Online Courses Podcast. I'm Jeremiah Regan.
And I'm Juan, and we are back now with a new course. We've been doing a fine arts course for a few weeks now, and we wanted to change pace a little bit. At the moment of this recording, we're headed into the final stretch of election season, which is a season now that seems to extend year-round for multiple years, but we're in the final 60 days here of the 2024 election. So we decided to do American Citizenship and Its Decline, which is a course we recorded with Victor Davis Hanson.
When you think about elections, we're thinking about what people want. What's good? What direction should our country go? And if you step back, as Dr. Arnn does in the introduction to the course, Lecture 1, he mentions Aristotle, as he's wont to do, and it's an excellent application. Aristotle starts his book, The Ethics, with the statement that all human actions and inquiries seem to aim at some good. In the context of citizenship, we need to think about what is that good. In short, so citizens need to agree on the most important things, at least in general. And Aristotle's not the only thinker who has made this argument. Cicero in De Republica has a character who says that there is no republica, republic, or thing of the people if there's no agreement on justice or what is right. You just don't have a country if people don't agree on what is right and what is wrong. And the American founders thought the same thing. Under the pen name Publius in Federalist II, the argument was that Americans seemed destined to have a single nation, a united nation, and this is because, among other things, the people observe the same religion, they have the same customs, and they hold the same views about the purpose of government. In short, they agree on what is good, they agree on justice, and so they can be a country that actually works and functions.
And this subject of citizenship, which is the topic of the course, it's a little personal to me. Jeremiah obviously knows this because he knows me, but if you're listening, you might have picked up on...
No one knows.
You might have picked up on my accent. I did not grow up in the States. I grew up in South America, and in a country where citizenship is essentially meaningless, although there are citizens. However, when I came to the States and when I was 17 years old, I was naturalized a citizen later in life. And so the question of what's the difference, right? I was a resident of the country and I had certain, let's call them rights. And what was the difference of that moment from being a resident to being a citizen? And what were not just the rights that came with it, but what duties came along with it? And by that time, I think the concept of citizenship had already been watered down significantly here in the country, to that there isn't much difference other than voting, and even that now is in question.
The differences mostly come down to the individuals in question. Juan is too modest to say this himself, but I'll say it. He is a true American. He made choices that made him a true American. Yeah, of course, he went through the normal, formal, legal steps to become a citizen, but he's done more than that. He's looked at America as a place that's good. It's a country that is great. And he has emulated and adopted the customs and mannerisms, if not the accent, of Americans. And he chose, going above and beyond the mere citizenship requirements of the modern day, which are pretty watered down, he chose to become an American citizen. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and it's something that everybody needs to wrestle with. If you're listening to this, you're probably in the States, and you need to wrestle with the idea of what does it mean to be a citizen? What do you get as far as rights for being a citizen, but also what are your duties that come with that citizenship? And in a time when the country and the concept of citizenship is dying, as the argument that Victor Davis Hanson is making, okay, what are the threats that are killing it, and what can we do to stop them? If you enjoy this course, and I think you will because Victor Davis Hanson is great, the course is based on a book by Victor Davis Hanson, and the book is titled The Dying Citizen: How Progressive Elites, Tribalism, and Globalization Are Destroying the Idea of America. You can get the book for the course if you go to hillsdale.edu/course. Again, that's hillsdale.edu/course, and you can buy a copy of The Dying Citizen so you can read along as you take the course. Now let's go ahead and turn to lecture number 1 with Dr. Arn in the introduction of American Citizenship and Its Decline.
Hello, welcome to this online course of Hillsdale College. My name is Larry Arn. I'm the president of the college, and this course is one of many, and I think they're all great. This will be a particularly great one. It's taught by the amazing Victor Hansen, whom I'm privileged to call a friend, and who's one of the greatest historians and thinkers of our time. And he's written a book called The Dying Citizen. And this course is about that book and the themes in it. The idea that citizenship is dying. And that means something fundamental is dying. And I'll say why that is by way of introduction to the course. The word citizen is cognate with the word civil or civic, or also civilization. And citizenship is the duty that you owe to your country. And in both the ancient and the modern world, countries have been known as particular things, a union of people who can talk to each other and share a common goal. Lincoln says in very Aristotelian mode, every nation has a central idea from which all its minor thoughts radiate. And Aristotle says in the first paragraph of his Politics that every community is a partnership and every partnership aims for some good, some common good. In the beginning of his Ethics, Aristotle says that every human choice and inquiry and art seem to aim at some good. And therefore it's been beautifully said, the good is that for which all things aim. Fellow citizens are people who share a sense of the good. Well, why would that die? What's going on? That it's not just true that the practice of citizenship seems to be declining, that the practice of citizenship, that is, contributing to your country, helping in its governance, is declining, but also the principle, the idea of citizenship, replaced increasingly by the world state. A world state governed by one particular form of government, the bureaucratic form. That's the appointment of experts to make detailed rules about every area of life. And then we all live under those rules, and the society is supposedly made more harmonious and better functioning. You'll find that idea highly developed in China, and you'll find that idea highly developed in Western Europe and America, for that matter. It makes a change, that new form of government, makes a change in the status of the citizen. Because Tocqueville describes, and the best thing, Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America, written in the 1830s, after a visit he made to America, maybe one of our most intelligent guests in the history of our country, he writes this book called Democracy in America. And my favorite part of it is he talks about local government. And what he says about it is, in Europe, they see a public official as an authority, as a force. In America, they see him as a right. In other words, when you see a cop, when you see a mayor, you think that's somebody working for me and helping us all live well together and responsible to us, the citizens. Whereas in a bureaucracy, the public official is an authority. Try to reason with Anthony Fauci or even understand what he says. So this expertise as a claim to rule cuts out us. Tocqueville goes on to say that because of this factor of our outlook on the government, that we are the source of it and we are responsible for it, he says that when a citizen sees a public need, he doesn't think of asking the government for it. Instead, he forms a committee and appoints himself the head of it and goes to work on it and tries to fix it. And although Tocqueville says this may be less efficient than some kind of centralized, professionalized rule, it can accomplish so much more. And one of the things it accomplishes is that we get practice in helping to govern our country. And that's a crucial thing, because human beings are what they are. They want to be responsible for themselves, and they're closer. Aristotle says that we're more sociable, We're more gregarious than any beings, more than bees or horses, more than herd or swarm animals. And that means that however we govern ourselves has implications for how others are governed, and we alone have the gift of talking about that. If we are governed, it reduces our station and our opportunity. Hillsdale College is located in a little town, Hillsdale, Michigan. It's about the size of the town I grew up in, Pocahontas, Arkansas. And I just love this town. And we get on in the town well. And there's a big spirit around here that we ought to fix our problems ourselves. And that is responsibility and authority coming to everybody in the town. And that's good for the town. So if citizenship dies, what follows is not unity. What follows is a form of chaos and a form of division. Because it starts mattering a lot who's on top, who gets to regulate whom. I just said, quoting Tocqueville, that in a free country where the citizens are important, anybody who sees a need feels entitled to go to work on the problem and get some others to help him too. Notice Tocqueville says, and appoints himself head of the committee. If you don't want to be on somebody else's committee, you want to be the head, then form your own darn committee. And that means that there's not as much reason for conflict. Whereas who's on top? Who gets to make the rules? That's a matter of intense concern today. Every time something becomes a big rage in the paper, the pandemic is the latest example, then bureaucratic agencies of every type are competing to contribute to it and get money from it and get authority from it and get prestige from it. Whereas if we did that locally, and some states have done that, then there's room for everybody to help out and figure it out. So this dying citizenship, it also has implications for the military, because Americans have always fought well, and yet they've never been a martial society. The Germans are a very great warrior clan, although a pretty modern country. And the Romans were really great too. Americans have been like them. We've won some big wars and we've fought well all over the world. And that's odd, isn't it? Because we're all free citizens. And the military is not the heart of what goes on in America. So what causes that? Well, Victor Hansen is the best single author I know on that subject. He can explain why we fight. It's actually, he explains in earlier books of his, why the Greeks fought so well. Everybody owned a farm, and they had personal responsibility for the well-being of the regime. Their families and their polis, their country, were both causes in which they had personal stakes, whereas they were fighting the Persians most famously. And there's that great conversation I love between the defecting Spartan king and Xerxes. And he says, I don't understand these Greek formations. Who is behind the soldiers to whip them into battle? And the reply is, nobody does that. They whip themselves effectively. Xerxes thought that was funny at the time, but he very soon didn't think it was funny, because then he had to fight those Greeks. And they were fighting as a free people. To see then what the theme is. And it's a wonder, and it shows an integrity in the order of things, that if you leave people free and give them a stake in things, you will get wonders unfolding, even if often it's messy. Whereas if you reduce everyone to some common form of rule, that degrades people, because people have a right to govern themselves. The dying citizen is a terrible, grievous, a dangerous phenomenon. And so we need to understand that phenomenon and citizenship generally, and then we can better do something about it. Thank you for taking the course.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Hillsdale Online Courses podcast. If you want to continue learning about the virtue of citizenship or other topics, please visit hillsdale.edu/course. There you will find over 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, The Real American Founding, American Citizenship and Its Decline, and many more. The courses include additional readings, study guides, fully produced videos, and you can chat with your fellow students on a dedicated forum. Upon completing a course, you will also get a certificate. All our courses are free because we believe that a virtuous citizen is the best defense for liberty. So pursue the education necessary for freedom and happiness at hillsdale.edu/course today. That's hillsdale.edu/course. Thanks for listening.